Your Classical Storytime is supported by Minnesota Waldorf School. From springtime gardening and tending chickens to winter sledding and skiing, Minnesota Waldorf is dedicated to embracing your child's uniqueness as they learn through movement, art, and music. mnwaldorf.org.
Welcome to Your Classical Storytime. I'm Ryan with a story called Goose, Goose, Baby Goose. There is a goose who lives in the lake behind my house. Every morning when the sun comes up, I sit at the window with my tea and watch him swimming his laps around the water. He's a gray-lag goose with beautiful white and gray feathers and a bright orange beak. And ever since he was born in the lake 3 years ago, he comes back every spring. We call him Bruce, Bruce the Goose. I can tell it's him because he's the biggest goose in the lake and because he always swims his laps in the morning. He'll swim through the water lilies first, then around towards the small dock, which he ducks under, and then back around through the cattails, weaving between the stems. He's a goose of habit, that's for sure. But one day, there was a change in his routine. That morning, as I was sipping my tea, I noticed Bruce wasn't alone. There was another goose, one I called Reginald Von Goose, or Reggie, swimming right behind him. Bruce didn't seem to mind, as he kept glancing behind him to check on Reggie every few minutes. They kept swimming and swimming until eventually they disappeared into the tall grass. How lovely, I thought. It seemed Bruce finally had some company on his morning laps. The next day, the same thing happened, and then again, and soon it had been a whole month, and Bruce and his new swimming companion were now inseparable. They swam through the water lilies, under the dock, and through the cattails, always within a wingspan of each other. It seemed to me that they really enjoyed each other's company, and that Bruce loved his morning laps more than ever. As summer rolled in, the lake was buzzing with energy. Geese and ducks were excited as the first birds started laying their eggs. It seemed like every morning there was a new pale brown egg laying in a nest. And every morning, Bruce and Reggie would swim by one of those nests and watch as the geese nearby flapped in joy. They'd pause and look at each other before continuing their morning laps. Of course, there were some geese who seemed unbothered by the eggs appearing everywhere, content to continue their activities as before, but not Bruce and Reggie. As they looked at the geese waiting patiently for their eggs to hatch, they almost seemed to sigh before swimming back to their own nest. It made my heart ache. I knew that feeling all too well. But one day, just towards the end of June, something happened. I was out on a walk just passing by the lake when we heard a big commotion. These geese were all surrounding a small nest right next to the water lilies, staring down at a tiny egg. But there was no goose sitting on it. Where was the little egg's parent? It seemed these geese had the same question. For hours, all the geese, including Bruce and Reggie, flew in circles around the lake, searching near and far for the goose responsible for the lonely little egg. But as the sun was starting to set, the day was getting cold, and it was clear that whoever was supposed to care for this little egg was not around. All the geese returned to the egg and stared at it, wondering what to do. Every goose that wanted an egg had one, and those that didn't had not changed their minds. Who could take care of the small egg? At this point, it was getting dark and I headed home, hoping the egg would still be there in the morning. What a surprise it was when the next day I woke up to see that Reggie was doing his morning laps without Bruce. I was scared for a moment. What had happened to Bruce? Was he okay? Why was Reggie all alone? But my worries were soon put to rest as Reggie made his final loop around the cattails and waddled towards their shared nest. There, sitting on the nest comfortably, was Bruce the Goose. What a relief, I thought. When Bruce stood up, I couldn't believe my eyes. There, In the nest was the little egg. As Reggie settled onto the egg, I realized they had decided to raise it. This made my heart so happy. At the end of July, a tiny yellow puff appeared in the nest. He was little and loud and full of joy, and both Reggie and Bruce were over the moon. They preened and nibbled at him gently, giving him all their love and affection. The next weekend, my husband and our baby walked to the lake with barley, oats, and vegetable peels to feed the geese and ducks. We watched Bruce, Reggie, and their new baby, Teddy, make their morning laps together as a family. The end. Thanks for listening to Your Classical Storytime from APM, American Public Media. Explore the rest of our library at yourclassical.org.